All right, we're live.
Boy, you got to say it. We are alive.
Always. It's number one, it's good to be alive, and number two, it's
Yeah.
good to share space with you and build something. So, as ever, no better way.
Yeah. Well, a couple of the good things. What a great way to start the week. And just really appreciate being with you. It's always great to see uh, not only your beautiful smiling face, but the energy that's coming out.
When you're living, and we've talked about this before, when you're living in your purpose, when you're living in your why,
Mm-hmm.
and you're aspiring for fulfillment, your whole world changes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Your
Yes,
whole world.
indeed.
So you are very pivotal in helping me crystallize a lot of it. I have everything in me, right? But
Oh, yeah.
it takes others like you who meet me where I'm at and help me explore all the different layers to myself and not be apologetic to live in it fully, even if others don't get it.
Well, not only that, but finding the right people to be around to kind of like bring you out, be the garage door that we talked about, and so on like that,
Yeah.
saves you a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I think we've talked to over the last couple of weeks on. I love the garage door. I love the mirror concept. I love
Uh-huh.
understanding where someone is in the learning process so you can meet
Hmm.
them where they're at.
Right.
Also, be radically candor and not be afraid to have that all in, lean in mindset, even when others don't get
Right. You know, uh, if you're going to be authentic, if it's like there's a lot of ways, there's several ways to be in a relationship,
it.
but it's not a relationship unless you're really fundamentally authentic in it. And that has to do with being candid.
Yep.
And when that's called for, that's called for. It's not all kind of attaboys. It's a lot of times it's like, hold on, cowboy.
I still can't wait to hear all about the cowboy. So one of these days you'll bring.
Oh, yeah. Cowboy stuff is good.
So I wanted to build on last week because we really started
Okay.
to get a good flow at the end, in
Yes.
particular. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to break apart in terms of the boxed in feeling and helping others explore it, but really leading with the concept of intentionality because we really didn't hit that piece of it. Um,
No, it kind of lies in the background and cover over by stuff, but it's like if you unconceal it and get it to the bone, if you do your what all the way up, you do your how, and you do your why all the way down, you're going to get to the intention.
yeah. So I've been looking at a lot of different definitions of intentionality. It's interesting because
Mm-hmm.
most
Mm-hmm.
people think of it very singular. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think of intentionality as singular. So to get us thinking, I thought, hey, why not lay out just basic definitions that most people will Google and they'll see, but then leave you with a quote here for us to
Okay.
then have that guide our conversation. Does that work?
Yeah, I think that's if that doesn't that will guide our work. I don't know that that's all of it, but that'll guide our work.
Yeah. Oh, once we start, you know how we are. We like to go rogue. That's
Yay,
our way.
yay, yay.
All right, intentionality, right? The quality of mental states, thoughts, beliefs, desires, hopes that consist in their being directed towards some object or state of affairs.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That was one that kind of came up within not even 2 seconds on Google. The other one was the power of minds to be about something, to represent or stand for things, properties, and states of affairs.
That's more powerful.
Okay.
And the power of mind is it's kind of Spanish for the way of being.
See, that's how I view it, way of being.
Yeah.
It's
So reread that second one, but read it as, instead of power of mind, read the way of being.
um in the you said way of being?
Way of being.
Yeah. In the way of being about something to represent or stand for things, properties, and states of affairs.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it really gets at it. And what it does is it pulls it back to where the source of the intentionality occurs, rather than the out there, that's what it is, kind of painted on a wall, it's yellow. You know what I mean?
So this one got my mind
Ah,
this morning.
okay. All right. I be ready.
It's from our guy Aristotle.
It's from our guy, Airy,
But we're gonna call him
as we
Mary.
as we like to call him, Airy. Airy in Hebrew means lion.
You just know so many things I can't.
I just know people who are of the Hebraic persuasion.
Well, Ari pretty much said excellence is never an accident. It is always
Right?
the result of high intention,
Yep.
sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives.
Yes.
Choice, not chance, determines your destiny.
That's really, really extraordinarily useful, and it ties directly into another quote by Eric, which is about virtue. And virtue, he said, it is the practice of the habit of choosing the mean between the extremes of too little and too much in the matter of our actions
Mm-hmm.
and our emotions. So those two go right together, and it's very appropriate that you pulled up Aristotle. He, you know, what a towering intellect. This guy actually dominated Western thought for more than 2,500 years. And even in Eastern thought, in the world of Confucius, they called him the great master. So he's the guy.
Yeah, and a lot of what his teachings and his thoughts and theories, they really are thought provoking for me to get
Mm-hmm.
myself
Mm-hmm.
challenging my belief systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
the reason that's powerful is when you're feeling boxed in, when you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to live in your purpose, when you're aspiring to truly know your why, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then your what, and then your how, right?
Mm-hmm.
The intentionality aspect, like you said, is, we deal with foreground and background, and it stays
Mm-hmm.
back. And
Mm-hmm.
in a way, we take it for granted of what is our intention every day? What is our reason for being, right? And does that fit into where I'm going? And what happens is we get so sidetracked with all the distractions out there, which
Mm-hmm.
we don't pay attention to it happening, because sometimes it could be so subtle that over time you end up getting boxed in because you're not living in your purpose with intentionality and making that a part of your foreground, not just always sit in your background.
That's really, really hot, and really, really good. There's two ways, like the front side and the back side, the front of the hand, the back of the hand way of looking at what it is that you're saying inside of an inquiry. And the inquiry would be, when intentionality is present, what else is present? Is purpose present? We'll use purpose, okay, because it's going to be some kind of virtue. So when intentionality present, is purpose present, and purpose should be in the foreground. On the other hand, you have to ask, when purpose is present, is intentionality present in the background? And asking yourself those kind of questions tends to make you, this is, how do you live an honest life? Kind of by asking questions like that,
Yeah.
holding yourself to account to the presence of intentionality and whatever virtue you're in the practice of.
Yeah, so let's build on that. That is a very personal, introspective way of thinking
Yep.
and being. Not just thinking, but being.
Well, introspective in the sense that it comes from the inner you.
Exactly, right? Which
Yeah.
goes
Okay.
to one of the pillars we were talking about. But at the end of the day, when you're looking in the mirror, and at the beginning of the day, when you're looking at the mirror at
All
you,
right.
you, and say, did I live today with my full out potential, or aiming towards that with full intentionality, right? A lot of times we think of it as, the mirror concept, but what happens when you make it a very disciplined practice to
Mm-hmm.
think about it, to reflect on how you've learned through your journey, how you become
Mm-hmm.
more intentional and mindful, all those things, but others
Mm-hmm.
around the table that are decision makers are not.
Yeah. Let me just kind of like do a little parentheses right here, Sammy, to say that today is Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And the feather for today, that is to say, the inquiry of the day is, what is my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
So we're having a purposeful conversation about what is my purpose, and it's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to say is that it's an inside out kind of process. I'm going to get right back to your question about around the table. Aristotle said that the very first, he said, not the greatest, but the very first virtue is courage. And he said that, virtue is the habit of the practice of choosing the mean between the extremes of too little and too much. Therefore, the question comes up is, what is too little in the world of courage? And it's cowardice. And what is too much in the world of courage? And it's recklessness. So we're looking for the tip of the spear, which is courage,
Mm-hmm.
in this conversation of sitting around the table and having this inner virtue, what Aristotle called a moral virtue,
Mm-hmm.
having this inner virtue actually stabilizing you in the conversation. Wow, all kinds of things are going on and you're freaking out and wondering why you should be there.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So I relate to that in a lot of ways.
Uh-huh.
But one of the struggles that I had as I was transitioning out of sports and I was garnering, executive presence and being in these big rooms with these decision makers, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I was figuring out my why. I was figuring out my new day one. There was so much going on, which
mm-hmm,
consumed me. I still
mm-hmm,
brought my best self, but I still had things happening in parallel.
mm-hmm,
The more and more I became equipped, savvy, build my critical skill sets, and started to understand what I was pouring into and building with that team, it was interesting because not everybody was trying to just figure it out. And I took that to heart because I always initially came into these rooms thinking I'm the most junior person. I Am I living in my purpose? Am I being intentional? I'm trying. I'm going above and beyond. I'm trying to show respect. Hitting all of these checkbox,
right, right,
what I
right.
think I'm supposed to be doing, instead of coming to that table and slowly but surely evolving to an understanding that we're all just trying to figure it out.
Okay, so this is really good. And I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit to something that you said because I think it's critically important. And because you say it so well, it tends to kind of like, so we tend to kind of like go right by it smoothly. This is not a smooth thing. And the phrase that you use that I want you to actually kind of unpack and talk to is, when we're doing things in parallel. That's a very, very elegant, very, very almost intellectual phrase For what?
Ah, you're coming for me today. I love it.
I am. I am. I am.
So as you know about me personally, I'm a all in, learn, curious, fail fast often.
Yep. Yep.
The
Yep.
reason
That's why we are in this conversation,
no doubt,
frankly.
no doubt. So what that really means, right? This whole concept of failing fast. On the surface, most people would say you're nuts. Why would you want to fail? That means you're a failure. No, 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 that doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Failing and failing often, it unlocks different mental thresholds or aspects of myself I didn't know I could even aspire and get to. And I have
Mm-hmm.
learned to do that faster. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I always talk about it like in the gym. How do you know what your max out weight is if you don't try? And
That's right.
you have to try to the point where you either can't get up, you need a spotter, or the weight drops and you're utterly, utterly embarrassed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, every part of my life, I have made it a very high priority to max out every day, zero in the tank by the end of the day on
Perfect.
all of these components. And some days I focus on three things. Sometimes I focus on one thing. But just because I focus on one thing doesn't mean other things stop. So the parallel pathing is as I evolve and grow and come to the table, build momentum relative to whatever it is that I am doing, I'm also thinking of other different ways to achieve outcome of success with others,
Mm-hmm.
how to
Mm-hmm.
help develop others to be
Mm-hmm.
faster, more
Mm-hmm.
equipped than I can at this, so then I can focus on this other thing. There's a
Mm-hmm.
whole host of different things for parallel pathing, whether it be the human connectivity aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be the actual team orientation of performance development, and whether or not
Mm-hmm.
it's my personal ability to get beyond my mental threshold. That's parallel pathing to me.
Yeah, that's really good, Sammy. One of the things that it brings up for me in this is that it shows that you have to be present and aware and intelligently related to the word focus, because you've always got people around you leaning on focus on this, focus on that. Even you in your outer conversation,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's kind of like yelling at you to be focusing and focusing and focusing. And there is an awareness and a presence and an intelligence on where you put your focus in this moment, because it may have to move quickly to one to another. It's a very interesting aspect of leadership that doesn't show up in management. Management's granted by authority. Somebody tells you to do it, you got to do it, or you're going to get fired, and it's set and it's set in time, and it's about efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership, leadership is a discovery, and in the discovery, we are failing forward fast.
Yep.
And it's not set in time, it's set in space. We got to create the space for ourselves and others to make those mistakes, to learn, to correct, so that we're actually doing the process that is the important process, which is play the game, learn the rules, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great because it resonates extremely well with me because
Mm-hmm.
lately,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say over the last couple of months, as I have transitioned out of corporate America, I have former colleagues and peers that have reached out, which I call them peers because that's how I look to them because I want them here. Right.
That's smart. That's smart. That's smart.
And
Listen, when you were a catcher, you were the field general and you were managing the game. However, every single person in every single position was a peer.
100%. So you get it. That's exactly I I'm going to speak to you with that command and respect. So you step
Yep.
to it. And even if you
Yeah.
don't feel you're ready, you at least try it.
Yep.
Because now I have
Well,
called.
you can correct. You can fail and correct.
Yeah. And I think that the reason, a lot of this resonates. So I have former peers and I have current athletes that, maybe don't interface with me all the time, right?
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
they'll reach out and say, I'm watching you. Like, I need what you're doing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what to ask yet,
Mm-hmm.
but you have my attention.
That is a certain form of brilliance to know that you don't know the right question, but you're looking and listening for it.
And that's how.
It really is. It really is brilliance. Like, rather than running your mouth, you're listening and you're listening for what is the right question.
Yeah, and that's why I love athletes, because let's talk about your 4 levels of learning that we went through.
Wait a minute. Why you love what?
What?
You
Athletes.
athletes. Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. Okay, 4 levels of learning.
And I'm going to go back to your 4 levels of learning. So
Okay.
athletes have a shortened gap on learning ability. Our performance development is required to learn in real time. We don't wait for mid
That's right.
years and full years.
Yeah. You
Okay.
don't listen. You don't get baseball out of a book.
You don't. And you've got to learn. And you guess what? The season's only so many games. You need to be, not only present, but you need to implement correct. You need to be able to navigate. You need to pause. You need to know when to just focus on the one thing. You need to be able to understand how you stack and block things differently. Okay. Which we'll unpack.
Listen, I had a very, very close friend, have a very, very close friend who used to pitch for Cleveland and later on for Kansas City. And he said something that everybody knows in the game, which is you win a few, you lose a few you get rained out, but you dress out for all of them.
Every single one. And that resonates with what the 4 levels of learning are, right? And to kind of recap, right? The unconsciously incompetent. You don't know, you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You're just something, just
Clueless, clueless,
right.
clueless, bumping into walls.
Yeah. So you have that, and then you progress to consciously incompetent. So now you don't know something. You really
Yeah.
aren't a
Well,
hundred
this is,
percent sure.
and in between the two, just to go back to something you said a little earlier, in between the two is when you've been asking the question, not knowing what question to ask, and then you realize this is a question to ask, and you ask the right question, and you make the shift from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent.
Bingo. And that is why I'm bringing this up, because athletes from the unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent is short for us,
Yep.
because we fail fast because we're
Yeah.
forced to. Like a volleyball player fails faster than a softball player. The reason a volleyball player fails faster is because they don't have the luxury to not. The game is faster.
The game is faster, and you are more and tighter, and you're more involved. And here comes the ball.
Well, you're going to lose more than you gain in certain sets, but yet you need to rebound, recover, implement, correct, pivot, and navigate corrections.
Learn on the go. Learn on the go.
Yeah.
Learn in real time and implement.
And so when I got a athlete reaching out and saying, I don't know what to ask you, but
Mm-hmm.
I am so bought into what you're doing. I see you. I am
Yeah.
listening.
Right.
That tells me there is a thirst. There is an absolute appetite and curiosity to figure out the why.
Listen, you're dealing with a person who is speaking the right language, which is all in, lean in. You're not dealing with some, I don't, there's a technical term that I
Mm-hmm.
want to use here, Sammy. The technical term is asshole.
I was about to write that down.
You're not dealing with this technical term kind of thing, who is auditing and cherry picking and, and deciding whether they want or not. You're all in an all in, lenient conversation with a real human being
Mm-hmm.
who's willing to put their took us on the line.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to me, right? So if we go back to why I wanted to talk about this, from my transition out of corporate America,
Uh-huh.
my transition from sports into corporate America and now into entrepreneurship,
Uh-huh.
I'm bringing others along with me, but just in different capacities. I am parallel pathing my relationship and what I am building with others that I have formed in relationship in a certain period of time, and bringing them along on the journey to hopefully inspire them to do something, to live in their purpose and why, and to live their life like a work of art. Because I can tell you with confidence, John, that many people I interface with, they don't know their why. They have it in them. They just haven't spent the dedicated work and time to
That's
figure
right.
it out.
That's right.
And I
Well,
want,
if you're an athlete, it's so easy to get lost in the body.
oh yeah,
You
oh
know, I mean, there's so much of it that is muscle memory. Don't think about it. And all of a sudden it's like, no, you better start thinking about it, pal.
yeah. And the best compliment I would say that I've received over the last couple of months. So there's a couple of people that I've interfaced with where, I've walked into like a big meeting, or I came off of a plane straight into like a meeting, and the
Mm-hmm.
feedback after the post-mortem, let's call it, because I'm big
Yeah,
on reflective after any
that's
interaction
right.
or event. And they say, your presence, like you command it. Like you walk into the room and you have a radiant energy that I may not know you, but I want to know you because I know that you're being yourself and I can't help but feel it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's powerful to me.
It and the beauty of it, the beauty of it, the beauty of it is it's not you, and that that presence, that power, that dynamic kind of way of being is available to anybody. They have to access it. They got to do the work. They got to do the inner work. And they've got to do what you've done, surround yourself with people who are smart,
Mm-hmm.
bring them along, be a stage 4,
Yeah.
give up the stage 3, I'm great, you're not conversation, give up the I'm special conversation in the interest of what is it, living in, dwelling in the inquiry of what is it to be extraordinary.
Yeah. And there's no one size fits all in that.
No, that's exactly right.
And it
That's
can change. And that's the other thing. We evolve. And if you're not
mm-hmm.
evolving, you're not here. You're not present. Because every day I learn something new, and that becomes either a part of my toolbox or some learning, some notch on my belt where I carry that learning with me. I learn every day. I'm a lifelong learner like you, John. Like it's just
Yeah.
part of my DNA, my fabric, and it's provided me with an environment to then turn that into a safe space to have the dialogue that a lot of individuals don't want to have.
Well, you know what you're pointing to really very, very powerfully, because this conversation gets more and more uh, kind of pointed as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So, the biological imperative for human beings, the biological imperative for all of life is adapt, migrate, or die. And we're saying you, as an athlete, you did well, you did however you did,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're going off and you're going into another field, So you have to either adapt or die, because migration, or you're going to have to leave the field and go somewhere else and find another thing. But you cannot get out of the imperative of that you are ruled by adapt, migrate, or die in every second of your life.
You sound like a Spartan today.
I am a Spartan. I love I love that Spartan view, and I really appreciate that you distinguished it out. It just like it was kind of like coming home.
And but you're right. I mean, a lot of individuals will feel that way you said it very punchy, right? Adapt or
Mm-hmm.
die. That seems so dramatic, John. There's got to be some in between. Listen, the in between is your safety net that you created that doesn't exist, but somehow gives you some semblance of fake security and comfort that helps you get through your day without realizing who you truly are.
Yeah, I'll tell you what in between is, like in real life. In between are excuses, opinions, assessments, judgments, points of view, drugs, ducking out,
Mm-hmm.
lying, just being special, being an exception. That's the in between.
Yeah. I just, you have to get to a point that you have to challenge yourself to take the leap. And we kind of talked
Yep,
about this, you and I,
yep,
yesterday, right?
yep.
And
I
just
love that. I love that. I love that.
being intentional means living in your purpose in my assessment. It's coming to the table, bringing your best authentic self, not only sitting at that table, but coming so hyper aware of what you can bring to the table while also learning from others in the process.
Right.
For me, that's my definition of intentionality. The only way I got to that discovery and my capability set to not just talk that, but walk that concept
Uh-huh.
to
Uh-huh.
my life was I had to leave corporate America.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to do that, John. I had to take the security of a paycheck to paycheck to paycheck mentality that gets ingrained in us at a very young age that that's good and all that. And let me tell you something. Initially, I jumped out and I didn't have the parachute pulled. It was free
Mm-hmm.
falling. And then, I'm still free falling and I haven't even pulled my chute because I'm not even at an altitude to pull it. I am all in on this. I am falling forward and learning everything like at the surface level. And I'm like, ooh, look at this over here. Look at this over there.
Yep.
Look at
Yep.
this
Yep.
world that I haven't ever looked at before because I've stayed in a plane.
My mentor Jerome said it to me once at one time. He said, most people they don't even get close to the edge of the cliff. They
Never.
just kind of like, no, they're not going to do that, and they back away from it. He said, "Here's what you've got to do, John." He said, "You jump off." And he said, "You grow feathers and learn how to fly on the way down."
Yeah, you figure it out. And that goes
You
back to what
figure
I
it out,
was talking about when I'm the most junior person in the room, coming out of sports, getting into these
right?
rooms because others saw something in me that maybe I hadn't even recognized yet, which was great because I had champions on my behalf early on, which was huge for me. I'm a
That's huge.
I'm a big proponent of that. But they saw something in me and they provided the safe space and environment for me to be a little bit reckless, to try these concepts out with them
Mm-hmm.
kind of one on one and say, well, why do we have the process for process sake? I don't care if we're a highly matrix, organization. We're one. They're like, that sounds so great.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what really is happening now. I'm not saying
No.
change it, but what can you do? What part can you bring to help bridge that? You're not going to solve it overnight. But and then those are the things that I started to say, okay, hold on a minute. I've got this experience over here on how to drive a team of a whole host of different personalities,
Right.
right? For a common vision and goal.
Right.
Okay, hold on, let me repackage this. And then I started to realize, oh, well, I'm just trusting the process. Oh, okay, well, this is comfortable. I know what that feels like. So then I started to then build upon that to the point where I realized my threshold and ability to hit my highest and best self meant I needed to jump off the cliff like yesterday.
Yeah. 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 All of that. You never get a second chance to make a great first impression. And when you're the new person in the room, you have an extraordinary opportunity. You don't have that opportunity in the realm of management. Other people are there and they're far senior to you.
Mm-hmm.
But leadership is available to the person who's coming in on day one. And they've got to take a chance. They've got to actually say something. They've got to participate. They've got to actually present themselves into the conversation. You never get a second chance to make a great first impression. Do it inside of the distinction of leadership, which is a fail forward, fast, all in, lean in ecology.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's a complete ecosystem where it changes, adapt or
Yep.
die. I mean, it
Yep.
really, people would always say, "Hey, you're in a $40 billion company. How are you going to stand out?" And I said, one conversation at a time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really good. And that's really the answer, THE answer.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be everything to everyone because, as you
No,
know, you can't. And if I
no,
box
you got to be
myself
you to
out,
you. You got to be you to you.
so, and, always find room to be curious and be able to be
Mm-hmm.
intentional and figure out where their intersections are that you can be your highest and best self. Maybe you're not fully there yet, but you have the vision. You know what your why is and you're trying to figure out how to bridge the gap to get there. You just have to find the different intersections that will give you the ability to get there.
Here's another piece of it too, is that in the fail forward fast part, which is such a critical part of the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
it is when you do fail, fail graciously.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good plan. Do not be one of those technical people that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Fail graciously. Learn something. Correct. Play the game. Learn the rules. Correct.
Yeah. One of the pit football players said this
Mm-hmm.
really well. And they were talking about, the winning season, a losing season. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
there's either winning or learning.
It's either winning or learning. Excellent.
And
Excellent.
he goes, and there's no in between to that because every day is a chance to get better. And we choose greatness every day.
This guy's going to be a great coach in whatever field he takes after his career is over as a pit football player. He's going to be a great coach. Just to have those kind of insights and have it so integrated. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
He is he's Italian and he, came over to the States and he's just a great guy and he's really smart. I think he's an econ major, football player that's
Oh, well,
an econ major. Most people would never think about it, but he
yeah,
he is
that's that's
the
that's
real deal.
kind of like the humanities version of physics, a physics major,
Yeah,
econ
no,
major.
he really he's a good one, and he's getting ready to
Yeah.
go to the next stage to play at the NFL and stuff. But he has the mindset and the intellect, and he grew up curious, and you can tell that because every interaction that you have with him, you feel that, and he doesn't always open up right away, but when you
Uh-huh.
have the dialogue, you feel that you're learning something.
Uh-huh.
which is powerful because you don't always get that with
Yeah.
athletes. Sometimes it's pretty surface level for a while.
I have a feeling that even though you didn't say it, it's in the background that he really is a very, very powerful and extraordinary listener.
Oh, I presume so. So I have to tell him. I have to tell him I talked about him. Now he's got to watch. He's got to watch Thoughtful Thursday because I'm giving him a
There
nice
you
shout
go.
out. But
There
he
he goes. Yeah.
he's going places, and there's so many athletes that are going places they just don't know, right? Because they don't connect the dots. They're not figuring out how to be just as intentional in this game of life as they are in the game of sport, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not
Mm-hmm.
separate. It's a part, it's part of your experience as a part of your life journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how you evolve as a person, where you meet your most authentic self and figure out that in the learning process, sometimes you're going to be the most competent one. And sometimes you're just going to be extremely unconsciously incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
But
And that's where, John, that's where the parallel pathing comes in because in some concepts, I am every bit of unconsciously incompetent, but there are a few things I will tell you that I am at a point where I am definitely a field general. I am definitely
mm-hmm.
consciously competent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm helping others see all of those sides to me because everyone thinks I just have everything figured out. Hell no, I don't. But I sure enjoy.
Well, that's on the side, that's on that side of it. But I'll tell you, there's an awful lot of what you're about. You're so well integrated in the practice of your virtues and in the expression of your life that there are a lot of areas in your life where you are in unconsciously competent. Yeah, you just it's like you're unconsciously competent in your command of the English language. You're unconsciously competent in your ability to be able to write. You're unconsciously competent in your expression as a leader.
Yeah. And I'm I'm stepping into that. A lot of
Yep.
times back in the day, I would want to be humble. Like athletes, oh, be humble, be great, but be
Mm,
humble. No, 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 no.
yeah.
If you are an expert, if you have the ability to be something that others look to get them up and bridge the gap up, be loud about it because we need you.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say when the choice is to be humble, be Dion.
Oh, I like that. I have to send this to Dion so he can see it.
I mean, the extraordinary thing about him is, I mean, he knows fully and exactly who he is and what his competencies are, et cetera. And he's a full on leaned in, all in expression of it, but he's humble about it. He does not offend people. He is not doing I'm better than you. He's doing uh, you want me around because we're going to be better than they.
Yep. Yep.
So I would say be Dion. He is definitely prime time still.
Yeah. And he's really evolved and he brings others along.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Extraordinary. Can't wait to see how he I just, keep an eye on him in 2 years and 3 years and see what he recruits and produces in Colorado.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty epic. So
Yeah,
um as ever, always
as
a
ever.
pleasure. I never want to end these conversations, but sometimes you have to hit pause on it.
Yeah, you gotta be somewhere sometimes.
But no, today's been great, right? Intentionality, really bringing back in the four levels of learning,
Yeah,
foreground, background, not being boxed in and how to still get out of it. And you may
yeah,
feel boxed in, but what is within your control and wherewithal to be bigger than that, and
yep.
be like our guy, Ari. I mean,
Harry,
he seems to have it figured out. So I'd like to end today with the quote again, if you're good with it.
I am good with it.
Okay. So excellence is never an accident. It's
Yep.
always the
Good.
result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It
Brilliant.
represents the wise choice of many alternatives.
Hmm.
Choice, not chance,
Hmm.
determines your destiny.
Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Well, people should actually have that tattooed in reverse on their forehead so that when they get up in the morning and they look in the mirror, they can be reminded.
Oh, I can't.
Choice, not chance, determines your destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, character determines your destiny.
Yeah. And as ever, thank you
Brilliant.
for always being you. And I will leave you with one final thing. Let
Okay.
he, let he who merits the palm possess it.
Mm. Excellent. 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 Excellent.
Have
What
a
a pleasure, Sammy. What a pleasure. What a great way to start the week.
You know it. Thoughtful Thursdays.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Take care, dear. Bye bye.